several Grammy nominations. Over the years, his bands have featured Rod Stewart, Long John Baldry, Julie Driscoll, and Jimi Hendrix. Brian has recorded with the Yardbirds, Eric Clapton, Van Morrison, Eric Burden, and Jimmy Page. He's currently touring with his band Oblivion Express and will be performing at the Falcon in Marlborough next Wednesday, May 8th. And now you have an official welcome to Local Motion, Brian Auger. Yay!
Hey, how lovely to talk to you.
Yes, lovely to talk with you. You know, I've had great fun learning more about you when doing my homework to prepare for the show. So you, of course, everybody can tell by your accent that you are from Britain, from the UK, and
Really?
I found, yeah. Well, you know,
they could tell anything from. I thought, I only say, Rita, that when I go back to England, a lot of people, including my friends, say, "Here, what's happened to your accent then?" I said, "Well, nothing's happened to it, is it?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, anyway, there we are." So
here we are. So, but you grew up. I always like to start interviews with kind of saying like, this is your life. And I like to just kind of go back. I found your growing up very similar to my mother, who also grew up in Europe during World War II. And just your start with the piano and just tell us that beginning.
Well, basically, I was born in 1939. So we went through the Blitz. And were bombed out in 1944. And I had a piano. My dad was, loved music, and he had this pianola. Pianola is a piano that, you can play it as a normal piano, but it's driven by air that you pedal, and you put a roll of paper in with slots in that correspond to the 88 notes on the piano, and lo and behold, we had all the operas in piano form, ragtime, which I loved, and I would spend tons of other stuff, and I would spend my time like standing on the pedals, hanging onto the underneath the piano, and pedaling away like some demented cyclist. Wonderful.
At a very young age, though, right? Did you start playing at 3?
Yeah, right about. At 3, and at 3, I was listening to American music, and we had a lot of Glenn Miller, and so I could play with one hand.
Oh yeah.
And people looked on and went, "Oh, he's going to be a piano player, isn't he?"
Right.
And I thought to myself, "Well, I don't know," but all the way along. For years and years, as I kind of progressed and got into jazz bands, and we were playing stuff by the Jazz Messengers and Miles and people like that. My parents and my uncles and aunts, when they asked me, so, what are you doing now then, Brian? I said, well, I'm talking to you. Mm-hmm. I said, no. Apart from that, what are you doing, for your work? I said, well, I've just become a musician. And the answer was, wait a minute. No, what are you doing for a real job?
Oh, yeah. That's the classic comeback.
That's the one,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really funny now. And when around about 1963, 64, I stepped off into the world of music. Only I was playing in all sorts of clubs and progressing musically, and I said to my mother, well, I need to try this for a year to get it out of my system,
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, well, I think you better get your hair cut. And she said, there's nothing in this that could be like security for you. All those years at the grammar school and everything, you could be a chartered accountant if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, my God, I can't think of anything more grotesque.
Yeah.
However, and this is no slight on chartered accountants.
Right. It just wasn't for you.
They do a great job for me.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the way it was.
So at 16 or 17, that's when you started progressing with like jazz. And when did you move to London?
I was in London already. I was born there, actually.
Okay.
I was born in West London, and grew up. Although I never really grew up. I think my mental age is probably around about 7.
Oh, I love your sense of humor. Now here's the other story that I heard. I either heard or read it from you that you go in, you played anything. Tell me about just the 2 keys that you knew, the G and the C.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, finally, I got a great job in a jazz club, and it was just off the Cambridge Circus, actually, in London. And I think they must have bribed the Westminster City Council or done something or other, because they could serve liquor until about 1:30 in the morning, and all the rest of the pubs in London finished at 10:30. So any of the musicians, even the Americans, when they were in town, would make a beeline to this place. Mm-hmm. And one particular trombone player came in one night, and I was steaming away, playing all these standards, and he said, "Can I sit in?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd be delighted." And he said, "Can you play Perdido?" And I said, "Yes, of course. C or G." These are keys on the piano.
Right.
And he said, "Wait a minute. Perdido's in B flat." And I said, "I don't know. I can't play in B flat." And he turned to the boss of the club and says, "Here, Al, what kind of piano player is this guy, man? Can't even play Perdido in B flat." So I was reduced to, almost nothing, floor level. And I went home that night, and this is like, I had a day job at the time as well. Mm-hmm. And so I was working from about, I used to leave home about 7:30 in the morning, and work till 5, and then run for the nearest train to go home and get changed.
And go out and play.
Run for the nearest change to go back up into the West End to play, and that lasted till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and then run for the last train. So it was fairly crazy,
Yeah. Sounds
anyway,
terrific.
It was,
so then you went home and you must have just like nonstop learned the rest of what you needed to learn, the rest of the keys, obviously.
Well, the deal was that, I learned home the same night and didn't sleep.
Yeah.
And worked out Perdido in B flat and waited for this guy to appear, which he did about a couple of weeks later. And I said to him, "Do you want to jam? You want to play Perdido?" And he said, "Oh, you can't play it in the right key." And I said, "Oh, well, yes, I can. I can now."
And you proved him wrong.
Are you? Yeah, he said, "Are you kidding?" I said, No. So anyway, we played Perdido, and he turned to me and said, "Look, don't you understand that all these standards that you're playing, they're all right, but they're all in the wrong key. So you've got to figure out, what key they're in, and then what happens is anybody can come in, and then you'll be able to play anything in any key."
Right.
I thought, "Oh, wow, that's very tempting." So I went up to Charing Cross Road and got all these music combinations of all the songs, and finally that was an amazing lesson.
Oh, I bet it was. I bet it was, and it's a good thing that it happened, right? I mean, so
it certainly was.
Yeah. Now tell me about your introduction to the Hammond B3.
Well. I used to play at Ronnie Scott's club. I came up playing jazz piano, and I played at Ronnie's, and Ronnie's was the place, in London, and I got to meet all the best musicians in town as well. So that was an amazing thing. But just across the road, there was a club called the Flamingo, and the Flamingo was an all-nighter, and the 2 guys that ran it, one of them would stand outside. They were a pair of, they weren't twins, they were brothers. Yeah, and Rick Gunnell, who is the guy who stood outside, said, "Flamingo all-nighter. Jazz and dancing till 5:30 in the morning. We guarantee to wake you." And I'd go in there, and it would be raving in there. All sorts of R&B going on, and blues and God knows what, So at one point, I heard Jimmy Smith, the great Jimmy Smith, playing organ through these speakers on. It was in Shepherd's Bush Market. That was where my record store was, and the Who would turn up there and buy stuff, and
wow.
God knows who. And I said, I couldn't believe it. I said, what is that sound? It's incredible. So I rushed inside, and and the guy said, "Oh yeah, I thought you'd be in." and he put up the cover to Back at the Chicken Shack. It was probably one of the early Blue Note releases in England.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, wrap that up. I took it home and listened to that, and then found all sorts of other organ players, Jimmy McGriff, Jack McDuff, Richard Groove Holmes, and all these American guys. Actually, all came from Philadelphia, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny, like in this time you're listening to American music, but yet the Beatles are exploding, right, through the world.
Yes, they are, but you see, they were exploding because they were listening to Chuck, what is it? Who was it? They were listening to American music as well, because we had some friends that traveled on the big liners, and they played music on there, went across to New York and back. When they got to New York, they'd rush to the nearest record store and pick up all sorts of stuff, and bring it back. And so, basically the Beatles, the Stones were listening to all the blues. The Yardbirds were listening to all the blues.
And that's what I wanted to get onto the Yardbirds thing, because of course it seems like you started playing the Hammond B3, and then you became pretty in-demand session player in the area, and that's when you got a call from the Yardbirds.
Well, the Yardbirds were in the same agency. They were booked by the same people that we were, So everybody got to know everyone else, because the amount of jamming going on at that particular time in the 60s was just amazing.
Right.
But anyway, I got a call from Paul Samwell Smith. He says, "Here, Brian, would you come up? Are you doing anything this afternoon?" And I said, "Well, no." I said, "Would you come up to just opposite Broadcasting House, the BBC, in Upper Regent Street? There's a little studio there across the road. Come listen to this tune. We want you to play on it." So I jumped on the tube and went up there, found this little place. And when I walked in, I wasn't familiar with that studio, and it was rather sparse, So I had to look around. It must have been a dubbing studio for vocals.
Ah, okay.
Because I looked around and said, "Paul, where's the piano?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Well, there's no piano here." I said, "Oh, I see. Well, where's the organ then?" And he said, "No, we haven't got an organ."
And you're like, "Why am I here?"
I thought it was a prank. We were always doing stuff like that to one another. So I said, "All right, you got me." No. All we've got is this. This was this kind of shape in the corner covered with a tarpaulin, So we dragged that off, and it was a double-tier harpsichord. Well, I said, "You've got to be kidding, right?" He said, No. I said, "No, what we need is, on this tune, we need an intro, and then we need some kind of rhythmic, pulse to go all the way through." So I said, "Well, play me the tune, play me the tune." I said, "All right, well, give me 5 minutes. I've never played a harpsichord before, and it's got a strange action because it's actually a plucked instrument. It's not like the piano,
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go on this thing and said, "Okay, I think what you need is I'm gonna take the basic chords of this thing, and I'm gonna run them out in arpeggios for the intro. Wang, 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 wang. And then when it starts up, I'll just play some kind of rhythmic stuff behind." So he said, "Yeah, all right. Well, let's do it then." So we did it. It took about 2 hours to kind of do everything.
Wow.
And I hung around, and then I, he said, "That's it, great, Bri." And I left the place, under the tube. I'm thinking to myself, who is going to buy a pop single with harpsichord on it? I can't imagine, And boy, was I wrong.
Number one hit came out your way. Yeah, and of course we're talking about For Your Love with the Yardbirds.
So there was strange stuff going on all the time there.
Absolutely.
These guys, as we knew one another, there was a lot of friends like Andy Summers and Zoot Money, and those were, I'd get home from some gig and they'd figured out that I'd been driving all night, let me get to sleep, and around about 4:30 in the morning, I'm dreaming, but there's a phone ringing, in my dream.
Right.
And I'm laying there going, and then I wake up and I'm totally delirious. I'm so tired. I can't even figure out where I am.
Yeah.
There is a phone ringing. It's on the floor next to my bed. So I picked that up and this voice says, "Is that you, Brian?" And I said, "Well, yeah, And the voice says, "The treasure is buried at," and the phone is put down,
Oh, my. Oh, my. Oh, my.
Oh, yes. They're up to all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of stuff. And then you also formed a little band with a few people, like Rod Stewart and Vic Briggs, and, of course, Julie Driscoll. You guys called yourselves Steam Packet.
Yeah, that was Long John Baldry, actually.
Yes.
Long John saw when I first bought an organ.
Yeah.
I got around to it. And I was playing in Manchester in a place called the Twisted Wheel. He walked in. He was huge at that time because he'd been on the Beatles Christmas shows. Mm-hmm. They had an hour show at Christmas time 2 years in a row, and he'd been on both of them. So it was like a household name, and he came up and said, "Look, would you come and talk to my managers on Monday? I'd like to work with you." And so obviously I went in there and talked to them, and what happened was we founded the Steam Packet, which included an unknown Rod Stewart and an unknown Julie Driscoll, and some other guys, Vic Briggs, Mickey Waller on drums, who turned up all over the place, and so that just exploded on the scene. There was nothing like that.
Yeah. The first of its kind, and then of course everybody kind of did their own thing for after a year or so, right? You guys spent like a year or so together, 2 years.
Well, yeah. Well, it was nearly 2 years, mm-hmm. and then John was drinking way too much at the time, and we went for a holiday. We were playing in Saint-Tropez, which was
beautiful.
The place on the Côte d'Azur,
mm-hmm.
All sorts of people would come by, and it was, John disappeared for the last 2 weeks. He would play the first couple of sets, and then he disappeared,
He disappeared.
And so I was like, wait a minute,
So after Steam...
kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so Steam Packet broke up, and then the next thing was Trinity? Is that the...
That's right, because the thing that I think about the Steam Packet was the spectrum of music that we had to play over was quite extensive, I'd go on and play a Jimmy Smith thing or one of my own tunes. Julie would come on, and she loved Nina Simone and Aretha Franklin and all
the classics,
all sorts of other people. And then Rod would come on, and me and Julie would stay on stage and sing back up for Rod, who was doing Sam Cooke impersonations at the time, and then John would come on, and we would play all sorts of Chicago blues numbers and gospel, and everybody joining in. That went very well. Right. And so, but after a year or so, I realized the elements that I wanted to have in a band, and the Trinity meant just a union of three, which I consider the rhythm section to be.
Right.
And I heard that Julie wanted to come with us, so that's when we started. And I was aiming at kind of trying to bridge the worlds between the straight jazz and all these new bands, all this new stuff, R&B and blues and God knows what, and trying to make a bridge so that the people in the jazz world would actually realize, hey, there's something happening there.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, that rock and roll is all rubbish.
Right, and
You know?
yeah. So
Yeah.
Trinity's your first album released in France, and France just went nuts, right? And then you
That's right, yeah.
started being booked as a headliner at Montreux Jazz Festival, and then of course that catapulted to Berlin, and there you guys were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went Berlin. I think it was Rome that year as well, and Zurich.
Ah, beautiful.
That was quite a bunch of to actually headline that. I was I was headlining in Berlin, and the act before me was Dizzy Gillespie Big Band,
and he was impressed by you guys, wasn't he?
He was. He came up and this was the ultimate compliment, man. I mean, I couldn't believe my ears when I told him I'd got his albums and I got Dizzy and Grease and, great big band stuff. And he said, hey, Brian, you should come over here and play with us, man,
That's a heck of a compliment, that's for sure. Wow.
Sure
Dizzy
was.
Gillespie, wow. And then after you guys too, you came up with a solo album then too with your hit "The Wheels on Fire," which also went to #1 in England.
Yeah,
yeah.
This Wheels on Fire. That was part of the basement tape, they call them.
Yeah,
which was sent over by Bob Dylan.
Yes,
and I think Manfred Mann got hold of them first, and he did Mighty Quinn. Mm-hmm. And by the time we got them, there were only about two songs left, and one of them was "This Wheel's on Fire," and so we listened to that, and it was. I was like, "Wow, I don't know what we have to do with that," because it was only Bob Dylan singing and playing guitar and a bass player,
right?
And it was like walking bass, fortunately, and so. Julie liked the tune, and I liked the idea of the lyrics were very, very psychedelic lyrics for the time,
Yeah.
So what I did was I went home and I tried to fit some kind of rock bass, rock and roll drumming and stuff and I couldn't. I said, that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I said, we've got a walking bass here. Let's just play a kind of walking jazz feel to it, like even on, right on the cusp of a march. That worked.
Yeah.
So when we went in the studio, I put down the tracks, and Julie put that vocal on, and boy, there it was.
And there it was, #1 hit, and that was it for you. Now, it was the first time you toured in the U.S. In 1969.
That's correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So we came over and we played in New York. I think we played in Boston first of all, at a place called the Boston Tea Party.
Ah, wonderful.
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
And then we played at the Fillmore East.
Ah.
And apparently, we got 2 encores after we finished, and I was told by the management that that's amazing. The only other person that got 2 encores there was Jimi Hendrix.
Wow.
Pal.
Oh, speaking of which, I want to ask you about your connection to Jimi Hendrix. Tell me about that, because when I was researching about you, I heard an interview that you did. Tell the audience here, Brian, if you would, of your connection with Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, well, I had just started the Trinity, so I'd got my rhythm section, I got Julie, and we were in rehearsal and starting to do gigs. I got a call from my pal in the Animals, Chaz Chandler, the bass player. Says, "Yeah, Brian, would you come up the office? We want to talk to you." So we meant him and another guy called Mike Jeffrey, who was their manager, who I thought was the worst crook in the music business. Mm. So I went. I said, "Well, what do you want to do? Why do you want me to come up there?" I said, "Come on, Brian, come up. We've got to talk to you." So I thought, okay, well, this ain't going anywhere because I never will do anything with Mike Jeffrey. So that's that,
Right.
So anyway, I went up, and Chaz said, "Look, we've just brought over this great guitar player, and we want him to front your band."
Wow.
So I said, well, that's all very well, but Julie Driscoll fronts my band, and I've already got a guitar player. Are you suggesting that I should fire both of those people? And I've not even heard your guy, they didn't even tell me what his name was.
Oh, my.
At the time. So, there was no way I was going to do anything with like Jeffrey anyway. So, but being a friend of Chaz, I said, look, Chaz, Friday this week, we are playing at the Cromwellian Club. Cromwellian Club was an after-hours club where all the people it was like the who's who of the rock world and jazz world would be there. And so I said that would be a great kind of like introduction for your guitar player, and he can sit in with my band. So they agreed to do that, and in the break on Friday, they brought Jimi Hendrix up. Hi, this is Jimi Hendrix. Hello, Jim. How are you? Good, yeah. And he says, I'd love to sit in there, And I said, fine.
Wow.
What do you want to play? So he said, look, and he showed me this chord sequence. Can you play over this chord sequence? And he showed me the chords, and I went, yeah, that sounds great. What's it called? So it's called Hey Joe.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know Hey Joe, but, the chord sequence was pretty clear, as far as I was concerned.
Right.
And Jimmy didn't sing at the time. They told him later on. Chaz told him, look, you've got to sing. You'll have to,
So you
But he
played
didn't
an
sing it,
instrumental version of Hey Joe?
He certainly did. And there was, I think, Jeff Beck, Clapton.
What?
Yeah, these people were in the audience.
Come on.
And, all sorts of people.
Oh, my God.
As I said, it was like, nobody knew that there was going to be an explosion. Everybody would be ridiculously famous or whatever at that time. So we all knew one another. We all jammed with one another. And, here was this guy.
So what did you think of Jimmy's playing? Had you ever seen anything like it? What was your...
No.
Yeah.
I'd never heard anything like that. You see, the stark relief was this. Clapton, Clapton and Jeff Beck and Alvin Lee, and there were other guys from other bands, I thought that they were great players already. They were, but they hadn't quite got to themselves, if you know what I mean.
Right.
You can still hear B.B. King and, all the Kings and and all those blues players in their makeup.
Oh.
When Jimmy played, man, I'd never heard anything quite like that. That was a unique experience.
Yeah.
So I was blown away. Anyway, we became great friends. He would follow me around in the West End, if I was playing at the Roaring Twenties in Carnaby Street or the Bag of Nails or Blazes,
Wow.
In Queensgate.
Wow. What a story. What a story.
So he came down. Now, there's always... For years and years, nobody asked me about Jimmy. And then all of a sudden, I realized there was this whole thing of people wanted me, me to talk about this, that, and the other, who had discovered Jimmy, and people claimed they had discovered Jimmy.
Uh-huh.
And people who discovered Jimmy, I said, well, don't be silly. It was the guys, it was Chaz Chandler and Mike Jeffrey that discovered Jimmy, and they brought him to London.
Yeah.
So nobody can kind of claim, I saw him in the club, and I immediately went and put him on my album.
Amazing.
Oh, well, okay.
Amazing.
But,
what an experience. Now, was this with Trinity or was this with Oblivion?
This was with Trinity.
Trinity.
With Trinity, yeah.
Right. And then, of course, after Trinity came the band that you still are with and you're touring with currently, Oblivion Express.
That is correct.
Wow. So exciting that you're out there touring and you have some family members in your band now and just...
Well, I have had, but my daughters have kind of retired from the scene.
Oh, she has?
And had children and, Savannah has a little boy,
Aww.
Kingsley James, who's 4 years old now. He's a delight.
Oh, I bet.
And she also has a little girl, Lola Grace, who is even more of a delight.
Oh, a proud grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Thomas got two boys who are phenomenal,
Right.
both of them. One is 13, and they're both in middle school.
Right.
One is 12,
Are
the
they?
one that's
And
12 is into drama.
are there any grandchildren getting into music as well?
Well, I was just about to say that Joaquin, who's the 13-year-old, is playing bass,
Nice.
upright bass,
Uh-huh.
and he plays it. He plays in the school orchestra so far as well.
Right.
Bowen, and so yeah, they've all like been to see his play, and they're all into music,
Right.
and so that's it.
Hey, maybe someday you'll be touring with them as well, Brian.
Who knows if I can hang on long enough?
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like you're doing pretty great. Where are you playing tonight? Are you guys in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we're in Sellersville.
Sellersville. I think they have a nice theater there, don't they?
That is where we're playing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sitting in a seat about halfway back, and I'm looking at the guys putting all the instruments on the stage.
Well,
so
it's better you than them,
Sellersville.
so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now you're playing also in our area. We've got 3 shows coming up. So if listeners are just tuning in, we have Brian Auger on the phone here on LocalMotion. It's 4:38. Brian's going to be performing with Oblivion Express this Sunday at the Egg in Albany. I think there's some still tickets available, theegg.org. And then on Wednesday, you'll be right across the river from where we're broadcasting now here in the Hudson Valley. You're going to be at Marlborough at the Falcon, and that's next Wednesday. And then next Thursday in New York City at the Cutting Room.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that one too. Actually, I played at the Beacon Theatre years and years ago, and then I played at the Beacon Theatre about a year ago. I was asked by a guy called Zucchero. Zucchero is a hugely well-known guy, and has written the most amazing music. And he's actually born in Italy, but is just one of those guys who can write anything for anybody. Wonderful.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm gonna. I know you guys have a show, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to. I'm gonna play some of your music to keep the hour going here, and keep talking about your show. And of course, Brian, people can reach out to your website to get information about when you're touring, BrianAuger.com, and
That's right.
Your music available is all over, right? The usual places.
Yes, my music is available. All of it is up on my website anyway.
Right.
Check that out, and it'll tell you, how to get hold of anything you want.
Right, absolutely. Now, when you do shows, do you sell CDs and merchandise at your shows as well?
We certainly do.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So,
yeah,
we've got the run of that, and also I've got a special CD actually that. I think people should take a listen to, and it's Margaret Thatcher sings live at the Bahnhof Mission.
Really?
It's a speciality, there's only one of them actually, and I think I heard that that she was a big fan, a big rock fan, the Iron Lady.
Oh my, that's hysterical. That is absolutely hysterical. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Well, we definitely have to take a listen to that. That's for sure.
Well, when I'm in Germany, I change the name to Angela Merkel.
Yes. Yes.
And that they love that anyway.
I bet they do. I bet they do. Yeah, Angela is going to leave soon, I think, as well. So I think her time is almost up in Germany.
There we are.
Yeah.
She can retire.
Now, do you live in the States, or are you over in England?
No. I live in California.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, in Venice, California for many years.
Beautiful.
So, we're backwards and forwards to Europe probably once or twice a year anyway. So
sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there a lot, but that's cool. So you're based here. That's nice. That's really cool. Great.
Oh, yes.
Great.
for a long time.
Yeah, very long time. Cool. So I always say go see live music and support artists and buy merchandise directly from the band when you can. So I'll mention your dates again at the end of my show here, brianauger.com. And I cannot wait to see your performance at the Falcon. I believe it's your first time there, if I know that. Yes?
Yes, it is, actually,
Yeah.
Well, I hope you'll come up and make yourself known. Rita,
I most definitely will, Brian. I'd love a photo with you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful.
If you can stand it. If you can stand it,
Hey,
I will.
If you can stand it, I will. So we could both say that. That's wonderful. It's been an absolute delight talking with you. And I don't want to hold you too long because I know you have a sound check and have to get ready for tonight. And again, we have so lucky to have you here in the Hudson Valley just this coming weekend and next week. So I'll see you next Wednesday. I thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure. And for now, we're just going to play some of your music and keep the airwaves rocking here with Brian Auger.
Okay. All right then, Rita. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you.
Yes, next week, Wednesday. Thank you again.
All right.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All the best. All the best.
And likewise. Thank you, Brian. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Auger spent about 45 minutes with us, and let's just keep playing his music here. We're going to keep it going here with Brian Auger's Oblivion Express compared to what from Closer to It from 1973. Let's take a listen. 91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie. 91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie. Hope you guys were rocking out as much as I was the past hour spent with Brian Auger, and of course listening to Oblivion Express. The last two tracks we heard came from Closer to It, released in 1973. Started it off with hearing Compared to What, and then we just heard Happiness is Just Around the Bend. The legendary Brian Auger is going to be performing along with his band Oblivion Express, 3 different places this coming week. On Sunday at the Egg up in Albany, theegg.org to purchase tickets, or at the Falcon in Marlborough, which is right here in the Poughkeepsie area, Newburgh, the Mid-Hudson Valley, live at thefalcon.com. Now, the Falcon, you don't need to purchase tickets to go there. It's by donation, but you do need to call to make a reservation. My guess, because Brian tours in our area very infrequently, that the show is going to be quite packed. It's happening a week from tonight at the Falcon. Just visit liveatthefalcon.com. Give them a call. They've got their phone number listed on there, and reserve yourself a great table. On Thursday of next week, that would be May 9th, Brian and Oblivion Express will be performing in New York City at the Cutting Room. Visit brianauger.com for all his tour dates. He also has a Facebook artist page, and it was so much fun talking to him. If you are just tuning in here to 91.3 and LocalMotion, we spent the last hour talking with Brian Auger of Oblivion Express and Trinity, and just the legendary keyboardist and organ player that he is. So if you missed part of the interview, this show, by the way, I'm really super happy with the help of a Vassar student. LocalMotion is now on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever else you may be getting podcasts from, if you do those things. So just check out LocalMotion. You'll find it on those platforms. And you can also find LocalMotion on YouTube now. So very excited about that. That's just happened a day or two ago. So if you missed today's interview with Brian Auger, I will be uploading it on Facebook tonight, and hopefully within a day or two, I'll get it on all those podcast platforms I just mentioned. But you can also always follow LocalMotion on 91.3 WVKR on my Facebook radio page. So that was the past hour. Now we have one more hour to go here for the show. Lots of great local music. If again your first time tuning into LocalMotion, this show is dedicated to music in the Hudson Valley, musicians that live here and those coming to perform. And tonight, that's exactly what's happening. We've got a great performer coming, a blues guy, at the Falcon tonight, Chris O'Leary. So still time to get on over there. Show is an early show. It'll start about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and live at thefalcon.com. You can just go walk in or make a reservation for a table. But let's take a listen to what's happening there tonight, because then you're really going to say, why am I going home? Let's go see some live music. Let's take a listen right now to the gentleman performing at the Falcon tonight, Mr. Chris O'Leary, 91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie.
Black lady, a slow train out of Memphis. I think I might just be able to face the truth. When I come back home to you, baby, back home to you, give me 1,000 miles to drink, a couple hundred more to think about what I'm gonna tell you, about the lies I'm gonna sell you, about all the tragedies that befell me, and what the devil made me do. Oh yeah, baby. Give me a cup or two or three cassettes and a half an ounce of weed. I gotta get my mind frame set, all the things that you gonna need when I face the truth. When I come back home to you, give me 1,000 miles of rain, come on and roll the thing about what I'm gonna tell you, about the lies I'm gonna sell you, all the tragedy that befell me, and what the devil made me do. Oh, when it comes to my heart, baby, now you hold the key, and you drag that key right down the side of my brand new Mercury. And you make me wish that I never ever been born. But I ain't in no hurry. The recollection's blurry. Hell has no fury like a little woman scarred, baby. Put down that pistol, woman. I swear that I can't change. But I regret all the time we spent down at the firing range. And now revenge is sweet, woman. I swear forgiveness is divine. Just give me 3 steps, give me 3 steps, baby. I swear I'll be just fine. Give me 1,000 miles a day, or come on and roll the thing about what I'm gonna tell you, about all the lies I'm gonna sell you, about all the tragedy that befell me, what the devil made me do. Oh yeah.
extraordinary, but I can't complain. It's good to be like everybody. I'm hiding just the same. It's good to be like everybody. So little I want and so much time. No time like the present for a little self-denial. Choices I made could make me ashamed, and I stand by them all, but I can't complain. It's good to be like everybody, but if I'm not the same, I'll smile just like everybody. Like everybody, I'm hiding just the same. It's good to be like everybody.
.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. It's 5:10 p.m. Wednesday evening. Brand new music from Lost Leaders. Their new release is titled Promises, Promises. We just heard Extraordinary. And great, fantastic group. Peter Cole and Byron Isaacs head Lost Leaders. They've put out, I think, 4 albums now. Peter Cole on vocals, guitars, Byron Isaac on vocal and bass, and along with them on this album is also Will Bryant on keyboards, mandolin, and backing vocals, as well as Lee Falco on drums and backing vocals, and additional keyboards by producer of the album, David Barron, which was recorded up at Sun Mountain Studios in Boyceville and also at the Building in Marlborough, New York. So great new release, Lost Leaders, who are going to be performing this weekend right here in the Hudson Valley up in Woodstock. You can check them out on Friday night at Colony. Just purchase tickets at colonywoodstock.com and see this great band, Lost Leaders. Now, I can tell you that Byron Isaacs is going to be busy pretty much for the rest of the year because he's also the bassist for the Lumineers, a little group you may have heard of, who are releasing new singles and a new album coming out in September, which Byron has performed on. He toured with them for the last album that they released, Cleopatra, and that, of course, went gold or platinum. I think platinum. So, yeah, the Lumineers doing a world tour, and Byron Isaacs is part of that group. But you can see him right here in the Hudson Valley on Friday night with his group, Lost Leaders, colonywoodstock.com. Getting us started was Mr. Chris O'Leary off his new release, which is really awesome. 7 Minutes Late is the title of it. He's a great blues artist, and tonight, that's right, tonight, Wednesday night, he will be at the Falcon in Marlborough. Just walk in, grab yourself a table, some good food, little libation, and check out some great music tonight, the blues with Chris Berkson, live at thefalcon.com if you want to get any information about that, and also thechrisolearyband.net. This is a really great new album. It might be my favorite one of his, and yeah, so this is produced by Ben Elliott and Chris O'Leary. It's recorded, mixed, and mastered by Ben Elliott. And again, it's titled 7 Minutes Late. Mr. Chris O'Leary giving us some great music there. And speaking of great music, let's keep playing some right here. We got a gentleman, this next gentleman here is going to be performing at Infinity Hall in Norfolk, Connecticut. Not far. It's really not. Right out 44. And from Poughkeepsie, it's probably about 40 minutes or so. Let's take a listen right now to Papa Chubby, 91.3 WVKR, Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie.